run. Green-White-Checkered. Green flag back in the air. To the bottom of the racetrack, Dale Earnhardt Jr. trying to stay in front of the pack. They work their way through 3 and 4. Into the triumph they come. Dale Earnhardt Jr. to the bottom of the track. Jr. will win at Daytona.
And welcome to the Tom Clark Weekly Speed Report. I'm your host, Tom Clark, along with co-hosts Corey Carroll and Colton Jacobs, here to bring you weekly insight on all things NASCAR, with a review of past week's races and a preview of upcoming events on the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series schedule. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at TCW Speed Report. Email your questions to tcwspeedreport@gmail.com. Check out the Tom Clark Weekly Speed Report Facebook page. A quick shout out to our official partners, Rao Brothers Painting in Hickory, North Carolina, and the City Farm Project in Hickory, North Carolina. And I would like to welcome my co-host for the evening, Corey Carroll via telephone, and Colton Jacobs here live in the studio.
Yeah, Corey, he's on the phone today.
Like John Clayton.
Just like John Clayton.
Just like John Clayton. So it's a very patriotic weekend. We celebrated our nation's birthday, our Declaration of Independence from the British Empire, and traditionally we always have a race on July 4th weekend at Daytona International Speedway. Of course, we're talking about the Coke 0400 at Daytona. Qualifying got rained out. Dale Jr. was the fastest in practice.
Yeah, in practice one.
So they based the starting lineup on practice speeds. Now, I didn't know if they still did that or not. I thought they had eliminated I thought it went by owner's points, but that was corrected, I guess. Rain seemed to be a problem all day Sunday, and me and Corey had talked over the phone whether or not we were going to watch it or what was going to go on. Corey, did you go right to bed after I hung up the phone with you?
Oh, no, I stayed up to watch that thing.
Okay, good. Because I ultimately did as well and was very tired the next day at work. Of course, we got the track dry. The air tighten system worked very well. We got the green flag out at 11:42 p.m., official start time. Green flag flew, and the 88 on the pole. Austin Dillon. It's kind of an eerie sight to see the three next to the junior there at the start.
Yeah, it was. You know, you had Austin in the three right outside Junior, and I know Rick Allen and the guys in the booth, who did a very excellent job.
Yes.
By the way, I know they made mention of that, and but he was able even to capture the lead from Junior right off the bat, wasn't he?
Yes, right from the get-go, Austin Dillon grabbed the lead. This is kind of eerie, too. On lap 3, the first caution flew, and that was for the 38 of David Gilligan, came across the nose of Clint Boyer in the 15, just got loose, but that did send some cars coming off of turn 4 kind of in a 10-car wreck, basically. So Austin Dillon led the first 8 laps officially of the race. We restarted on lap number 9. The number 18 of Kyle Busch on lap 17 hit the wall, but they didn't throw the caution.
Yeah, that killed. That's killing his chances. Wouldn't you agree, Corey?
Well, it didn't seem to kill his chances. He was still running in the top 15 by the end of the race. I'm sure his car was nowhere near as good as it was, but he just, he got a little too high up there in turns 1 and 2, and I don't know if there was some loose stuff up there or what, or if he just, if maybe he put too much wheel into it, trying to get around the apex of the corner, around the slower car in the middle, and just lost the tail end of it, had to chase it up the track, and luckily he was close enough to the wall where it didn't do a whole lot of damage to where it knocked him out, but I'm sure that did have an effect on the performance of his car going forward.
Do you agree with the move by NASCAR not to throw the caution, or?
Well, actually did at the time. I mean, he really presented no imminent danger on the track. He was still going fast enough to where he wouldn't have impeded really the pack if they would have made it back around to him, and he was able to make it back to the pits without incident. So, there's times when NASCAR needs to, holster that yellow flag and let them race with minor incidents like that. And I think that's one of the situations that they made a good call on.
I agree.
We now, of course, because those two early cautions kind of got in the way of NASCAR's plan, they threw the competition caution on lap 26. That was the first time the cars in the crews were able to put fuel into the cars. Lap 31, we restart the race. 48 of Jimmie Johnson got the lead from Dale Jr. coming off of turn 2, had a big run. And Jr. kind of looked like he just let him go by. But at the same time, I think maybe he looked up into his mirror and realized, man, that 48's got a head of steam. 48 got out front at lap 34. By the time we got to lap 53, the yellow came out for Carl Edwards. I think his tires slipped on some of that salami from his
the big hot pastrami.
The big hot pastrami. And he got loose and kind of
and that brings up a good point with Edwards, and we talked about Busch and Edwards. A lot of guys this weekend were just getting loose. There wasn't contact, but that air is really playing with these cars, this Generation 6 car.
And we saw a lot of this at the Daytona 500, which begs the question, Corey, do you think that it's been long enough since the repave at Daytona for the handling to start coming back into these cars at Daytona?
For the handling to start coming back into them? Is that what you said?
We're basically what I'm like. The handling is becoming a bigger and bigger factor year after year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it doesn't take very long for racing surfaces to get worn over a matter of years, especially when you're talking about the speeds that these cars run at this track.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Daytona's always been a handling track. It's a lot more narrow than Talladega. And with a little bit of age since the repave, handling's going to become more of a premium in future years as well until they eventually repave it again. Yeah,
which I think will be long into our age by the time they decide to repave this thing.
Yeah.
So we had the caution at lap 53 for that. Now towards the latter half of the race, we saw 42 of Kyle Larson lead a few laps and the 20 of Matt Kenseth. Towards the last little bit of racing, restarted with 46 to go. Junior took the lead. With 33 to go, our favorite driver, Danica Patrick, ran out of talent. She just can't seem to quite make 100% of a race. Brought out the caution. Restarted with 28 laps to go, another caution. Now we get down to the meat of the race, I will say. At this point, I wondered why I stayed up so late, but I'm glad I did.
Yes.
Restarted with 9 to go. Junior obviously the leader. Later on, they had another late race caution with a Green-White-Checkered. Now, when you have an Earnhardt out front at a restrictor plate track in a Green-White-Checkered, like even me, not being a necessarily Dale Jr. fan, I was biting my fingernails.
Yeah, I mean, and I was telling Corey this when we talked about it. This was one of the more dominant cars I've seen at a plate track in a long time. Maybe since Junior's cars back at DEI, and maybe the way he was able to just jump out front those restarts. Nobody really had anything for him on restarts, and in my opinion, Denny and Jimmie were about the only two that had anything for him on an individual like car speed basis. Anybody, if they ganged up on him and left him out to dry, sure, he's toast. But his car was just powerful. I mean, I don't know, Corey. I mean, other than those two, do you think anybody else could have challenged him in like one-on-one?
No, I don't even think those two could challenge him, to be honest with you. I think he was fighting a tight condition at the beginning of the race, which allowed Denny and Jimmie to get by at a certain time. But once they corrected that, I mean, like you said, this is about as dominant as this Gen 6 car can be at a plate track. Now, it may have seemed that his DEI cars were, you know, you've watched races with them at Talladega and Daytona in the early 2000s, and it seems like maybe they were more dominant even than this car, but that's just because it was easier to pass back then.
Yeah.
And you could legitimately start in the back and work your way up to front, and he did that a bunch. So it kind of seemed more dominant back then and more impressive. But with this car and this rules package at the plate tracks, this is as dominant as you can be by a long shot. And I'll go even further to say that you have a dominant car and you have arguably the greatest plate racer of all time behind the wheel.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, no respect to his late dad, which I think is revered in the sport, and especially with his plate track abilities as well. But there was a lot of his wins that came pre-plate era, you know, whatever, at Talladega and Daytona. And so you kind of got to take a few of those wins away because it wasn't necessarily a plate race then. And, you know, Dale Jr. is just, like Denny Hamlin tweeted, what Dale Jr. is doing on these plate tracks is just absolutely ridiculous. And he's always been able to do this better than anybody who's ever sitting behind the wheel of a race car, in my opinion.
I agree with you, Corey, and even Paul Menard, he played radio transmission. They played, and he said the 88 is just ridiculous. And you and I were talking about where he trailed and stuff, and I said that he trailed Senior, but he actually trails Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon has 12, Senior has 11, and Junior has 10. So I was wrong when I told you that Senior had 12.
Well, you know, even so, I mean, it's such a different era in plate racing now, that to be able to win 3 of the last 7 plate races in this era, I believe it's more impressive than maybe the dominance that Gordon and Earnhardt Sr. had in the late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, whatever period we're talking about. And you know, that's up for debate. If somebody wants to disagree with me, that's fine. But that's just my humble opinion.
It's a very good observation because even during DEI's dominance, Jeff Gordon in particular, from mid 2004 to throughout 2005, 2006, and 2007, with the older style Gen 4 car, I think you would call it.
Yeah.
Started to show his veteran status in that type of racing because the car had been the same for so long. He only won at Talladega one time in 2007, the fall race at Talladega. And since then, Jeff Gordon's not scored a restrictor plate win since the COT and now the new Gen 6 car. So Corey's right in that. I mean, even with the implementation of a restrictor plate towards the end of the 88 season after Bobby Allison's crash at Talladega, plate racing has evolved from the beginning till now. So never have I seen personally in plate racing the lead car being the guy you have to catch.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, if you're in the lead, you're the sitting duck. In traditional plate racing, I mean, that's the way my brain still operates, is that if you're out front, you're toast. You're going to be done. So, of course, Dale Earnhardt Jr. led 96 of the 160 some odd laps because of the Green-White-Checkered. So that's pretty dominating. I mean, if you put that in perspective, 100 of 160 basically.
Yeah, and it was even more of a dominating performance than his 2014 Daytona 500 win. The end reminded me of that because, Junior led, I think it was like the last 55 laps,
Mm-hmm.
and he led a similar number at the end of the 500. He had to battle off Denny Hamlin like he did Sunday night or Monday morning, I guess you could say. And off a Green-White-Checker. But the difference in his 2014 Daytona 500 win and this win is that he dominated throughout the whole race. He showed from start, sitting on the pole, led laps in the beginning, the middle, and then just spanked everybody at the end. That's where it was different than the 500. Granted, there was 100 more miles, but
Yes.
still.
So of course we got the Green-White-Checkered finish. Also, always an exciting event at Daytona. Now coming across the line, you've got Junior out front. You had a lot of commotion in the back. I think it was the 4 pushing the 11, which caused a late race, last minute, big one at Daytona. And let's go ahead and take a listen to the audio clip from Dale Jr.'s reaction to that.
Keep coming here. Both coming. Here comes the 11. Check the bottom. Checker flag right here. Big wreck in your mirror. Big wreck in your mirror. Oh no! Oh my God! Holy shit! That looked awful. Yeah, buddy, it's pretty bad. Oh no! Oh my fucking God, man! Did you see that shit?
Of course, we apologize for the language, but that just shows you the severity of this wreck that happened at the last second, right across the start-finish line.
He was horrified.
Yeah, I mean that Dale Jr. is a guy that you don't get a lot of emotion out of, but for him to have reacted in such a way, now of course, like we said, apologize for the language, but I mean, what I would probably say the same thing if I saw that event, happen in front of my eyes. So, and it being the 3 car, I don't think that helped any at all either. But, watching it live, I was shocked. I mean, it didn't happen the way you thought it would happen. Of course, when the cars got spun, the 3 of Austin Dillon hit the 11, and the nose of the car pointed up, and the air got underneath it, and sent it out towards the catch fence, which catch fence did its job. But we'll also take a listen to Jimmie Johnson's post race. He basically explains the same thing.
I watched a few replays before I did my TV interview, and I assumed that the 3 was backwards and it lifted off from that. But it was actually the 11 was backwards, and the 3 bumped him and got some air under the nose of the car, and then it just peeled the car up off the ground. I don't know how you help the cars in that scenario. Slow us down, certainly. You slow the car down. We get further below the liftoff point, and that could have been, that could be something to look at. But what I thought happened didn't happen. I was shocked to see the car get off the ground as it did from that type of contact.
So Jimmie basically points out, the same thing. Like I said, the car, Austin Dillon's car, hit the 11, raised the front up, and then the air just basically, like I said, peeled it up off. Like if there was a hand, the hand of God peeled the car up off the racetrack and threw it up against the catch fence. So number of 12 people were injured. Several refused treatment, but 3 were hospitalized briefly, and we're glad they're okay. But this brings up a subject of safety. Corey, what is your take on? Let me just pose this question to you: did the catch fence do its job?
Yeah, everything did its job. And to be quite honest with you, hearing some of the drivers comment and speak out against NASCAR for their, I guess, lack of concern about safety is just completely absurd. The fact that Austin Dillon walked away from that car, the fact that all the fans walked away from the grandstands after a wreck like that. You take a highway car going 60 and put it up in the air and make it stop from just from 60 to 0, you don't survive that crash. And, this car was going, who knows how fast it was going when it hit the catch fence, probably over 100 miles an hour, to stopping immediately. And he walks away like nothing ever happened. That is such a testament to the innovations in safety over the years, even over the last 20 years, that to hear other drivers, other people, no matter what, throw off on NASCAR about them not being concerned with safety is borderline offensive, considering how far they've come in the area of safety. And I think it's embarrassing, absolutely embarrassing, to hear drivers and other people in NASCAR say things like that.
Yeah, I'll touch on that. I'll add to that. I was speaking to people that aren't necessarily fans of the sport, and the first question they asked me come Tuesday morning was, "What was NASCAR thinking?" I said, "What do you mean?" And this particular person said, "Putting people's lives at risk." And I put this up on Facebook on my personal page. These drivers know that no matter what, auto racing will always be inherently dangerous. Always has been and always probably will be, and that's part of the attraction. When you, as a spectator, purchase a ticket to view that race, you are unofficially signing a contract saying, "I understand that my life will be put in danger with cars traveling at that kind of speed."
Yeah, especially in row 3, like those guys were sitting. I mean, the first few rows. Exactly. And a few years back, I was in row 3 at Darlington. I knew that if there was a terrible crash or something, there was a chance, because you're that close to cars going over 170 miles an hour. It's just part of it. And
yeah.
And I know that I read today that the fans, like 2 or 3 of them, have already hired lawyers. Now, I do think NASCAR should help those fans with whatever hospital bills they have, and I'm sure that's where the lawyers come in. But if for any reason they try and get any more money other than that, I'm going to kind of steal some of Corey's words, it would just be absurd, appalling. Like, that would piss me off, because that's just greed. You go to these races, you call yourself a fan, and then you try and exploit something like that. I mean, you should just be happy that Austin Dillon's okay and that he's alive, that you and the other fans that got hurt aren't hurt any worse, and move on from it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure NASCAR will try and help the families and whatnot, but I'm just speculating. I hope that they don't try and do any more, because I know that there's still some things from the Kyle Larson wreck in 2003 and then
2013.
2013. Sorry, of the wreck and then the Nationwide series, and there's still some settlement stuff going on with all that. So I don't want to see that type of stuff.
I will say from a personal note that at the 2013 Coke 600 at Charlotte, when they had that Sky Cam, that camera that stretched across cables from turn 1 to turn 4, I was right underneath that when it broke. My end didn't get as much, hoopla, I guess, or what you would say, but my thought process is I could get hurt right now, but let's just wait to see what happens and do it later. I agree with Corey in that, this is auto racing. If you want to talk about safety, the World Rally Championship, which we don't really watch, but we know of.
Yeah.
They allow spectators to be basically on the side of dirt roads in the open.
Yeah.
With cars flying past them at upwards of 150 miles an hour. So if you want to talk about safety, in my opinion, NASCAR is probably one of the safest, if not the safest, form of motorsports. They have tethers holding on to the car parts when they disintegrate, tethers holding on to the tires, and multiple safety regulations. But I will say that it will be interesting to see the aftermath. This is America. Happy birthday, America.
Yeah.
This is NASCAR. So my prediction is that NASCAR will probably say, whatever, we'll just go racing.
And on to Kentucky.
On to Kentucky, which will bring us to our preview of the Quaker State 400 presented by Advanced Auto Parts.
You can get Quaker State oil at Advanced Auto Parts.
Yes.
So, if you're not an Advanced Auto Parts person, you should go. It's a good store.
I'm either a Walmart or an AutoZone kind of guy.
I used to be Advanced, but I'm AutoZone now.
Yeah, Advanced is kind of shady.
Yeah. Yeah, but
they are a little shady.
And Napa's too expensive.
Napa's way too expensive.
Yeah,
like no wonder why like Michael Waltrip sucked, because nobody was gonna I don't feel like paying that much for an oil filter. My preview of minus the aero package, which we'll get into just a little bit. That track is awesome in my opinion.
Yeah, it's very unique.
It's flat. It's got a weird angle in the tri-oval, and it's bumpy as hell.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
The advertisements for the track and going to the race have had people, Joey Logano being prepared by riding in a golf cart over a bumpy driveway. Yeah. So it definitely has a lot of character. My predictions, so to speak, will be so far at this point in the season. I feel that the Hendrick cars will be fast, and so will Stewart-Haas. This will be a time for the Stewart-Haas cars to kind of get caught back up in the wins column.
Yeah.
We're going to a mile and a half, and now the aero package I am excited to see, with a 3.5-inch spoiler and a shorter radiator pan and less overhang on the splitter. So I think it will be a predictable yet unpredictable race in that we just have a lot of factors. To go over. Now, Corey, give me your little bit of a what you think might happen at the race at Kentucky.
I really don't know. I have no clue. I'll be able to tell you more after hearing maybe drivers' comments after the open practice tomorrow or something.
Yeah, I believe it is tomorrow.
Yeah, testing
tomorrow or Thursday or whatever. I mean, then I could tell you, but I'm not an engineer, so I don't really know what these changes are going to bring. But if it's a shorter spoiler and less overhang on the splitter, I'm all for both of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Therefore, creating less downforce, which we hope will make mechanical grip a bigger of a priority on these cars. Well, we're going to move on to our fantasy picks, just real quick.
Yeah, we're going to move on at.
And I gotta win. I forgot I gotta win.
Tom broke his curse and got a win. And Corey came in with his fourth second place finish
in a row.
And hey, my pick of Boyer was not so crazy. He was third with like 20 to go behind Junior and Menard. I was about to be like, but of course, the cream rose and he finished 10th. So Corey's still in the lead, man, with 6:05. I'm second with 5:33, and Tom still last with 3:96.
3:96, yes.
Yeah. So Tom, you get first pick, buddy.
All right, I'm still sticking with my newfound strategy, and I'm going to go with Mr. Kevin Harvick.
Oh, picking a favorite.
Picking a favorite again. All
right. Well, I guess that leaves me second, and I've waffled because I know they're doing the rules package, but I'm going to go with the man that dominated last year. I'm going to go, even though they're not running as great right now. Brad Keselowski he whipped everybody last year, and I think this is where Penske is going to kind of turn around their bad luck that they've been having. So I'm going to go with Brad.
Bad Brad. And Mr. Carroll, will move on to you for your fantasy pick for the week.
Well, I don't know. I hate to pick who I really have in mind because he's so snake bit all the time. But I've got a pretty sizable lead, so I'm going to at least I'm gonna at least make a semi-risky pick. I won't pick the original, like the winner of the inaugural Kentucky race. That's Kyle Busch.
Ooh.
Kyle's going to have a solid race. He can't afford to have another bad race, and we'll just I guess to see if the pressure will get to him or not, because he's got to have a good race.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, if he gets the second win, that should lock him into the chase.
He's got to be in the top 30.
I thought it was with one win and at least a top 30, along with one win. But to me, if he gets the second win, that pretty much.
I mean, Corey, I don't know if you know. I think for any win to matter, you got to be in the top 30.
Yeah, I mean, he could have 12 wins. If he's not in the top 30, it's not going to matter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that sucked to have 12 wins and not be in the top 30.
not even be in the chase.
So,
now this is officially the midpoint of the season. Now we look at our preseason championship picks, our top four, and then eventual champion. We'll go with me first. My final four heading into Homestead would have been Logano, Edwards, a Roush driver, and Jeff Gordon.
A Roush driver. That's funny.
And my eventual champion being Jeff Gordon. Corey picked Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick, Jimmie Johnson, and Kyle Busch, with the official champion being Jimmie Johnson. And Colton became probably my best friend at that moment when he spoke these words, that his top four was Harvick, Jimmie Johnson, Joey Logano, Jeff Gordon, and his eventual champion is Jeff Gordon.
Well, and you said you were going to buy me a beer, and you still have not bought me that beer.
That's true. That's true. I have not bought that one yet. Now we're going to just take a quick refresher. Now, we could talk all day about our top fours, but I'm just going to go with, at this point in the season, who our eventual champions will be.
Okay.
And I will go ahead and go first.
Yeah.
And I'm going to change my pick.
All right.
Because as much as I love Jeff Gordon, because I think maybe if I do this, it'll bring him good luck. But I really have a strong feeling, based on his performance, based on his attitude, based on his personal life improving, I will go out on a limb and say Dale Earnhardt Jr. can pull off his first Sprint Cup Series championship this year.
That's not a bad pick. It's really not. And me being a Dale Jr. fan, I don't. It's very, very possible that the way he's running. So Corey, you went second in the preseason, so you can go second now.
Okay, so are we just changing our champion if we want to, or can we change anybody?
If you want to, just for time's sake, I was going to just go for eventual champion, and your pick was Jimmie Johnson. But if you don't wish to change it, that's fine as well.
No, I don't want to change my champion. I mean, I think I have the safest pick out of all you guys.
Yeah,
it's obvious in the fantasy picks.
Yeah,
I do not think that Kyle Busch will make the Final Four, and I mean, I guess there's a good chance he might not even make the chase at all. But if I could replace him with one driver, I would put Dale Jr. in there, with how well he runs on average at the chase tracks to get into the final round, as long as he doesn't have any bad luck like he did last year or the year before, mechanical failures and such. So if parts don't break on his car, he don't get caught up in somebody else's mess, I think he makes the Final Four.
Very, very, very good pick. I will say that last year he showed more strength in the chase than I ever have seen him show from years past. And we'll go to Mr. Jacobs.
Well, Corey, did you end up saying your overall champion?
If he could replace one person, it would be Kyle Busch with Dale Jr.
Yeah, in his Final Four.
In his Final Four, but his eventual champion is still Johnson.
Okay, I got you. Well, I had Harvick, Johnson, Logano, Gordon. I do kind of want to say that I would keep Harvick and Johnson, but I kind of agree with you guys. I think Dale Earnhardt Jr. is going to make it to Homestead. He should have been there last year. He's has one of the best averages all year at mile and a half, so we know that the chase is littered with mile and a half, plus Talladega, which he's showing strong restrictor plate. And my fourth is going to be Truex. He's running really great.
Very good.
But when it hits Homestead, right now he's just so solid week in and week out. I think Harvick's going to win back to back. As of right now, I wouldn't bet. It's hard to go between Harvick and Johnson, but Harvick's just so unbelievably fast everywhere. I think Harvick will be the champion.
Very, very, very interesting comments on our mid-season championship picks. Move on to our green-white-checkered round, Mr. Jacobs.
All right, green-white-checker. The green flag question, and I'm going to hit you guys up with a few stats. The main question was Sunday night, it being a Sunday night race, was it a bust or not? And they had a NASCAR and NBC reported that there was a 2.6 overnight rating for the race, and it's up 8% from the race last year that was Sunday afternoon, I believe it was. But in 2005, NBC's last Daytona night race, which was also delayed by rain, it was a 4.8 rating, and it was a 2.6 this year. So what does that say about NASCAR television ratings in this decade-long hiatus? And do you guys think that the whole Sunday night thing was a bust?
I think that overall NASCAR is pretty healthy regarding television ratings. Certainly they still beat out some major sports on major weekends. But I don't necessarily think it's a bust because, as the NBC CEO said, that they knew, as Corey pointed out last week, that more people were going to be inside or outside watching fireworks on July the 4th than they would be watching a race. So I think they did it for, if they had run it on Saturday night, I don't think it would have made such a big splash as the NBC CEO had stated.
What do you think, Corey?
To be honest, I mean, I think the NBC executives made a good call. Not in hindsight, but in foresight. They definitely took into account that Saturday was the holiday, and apparently they have a Sunday night sports, like little thing that they wanted to incorporate into their first NASCAR broadcast. It wasn't a bad idea to at least try it. It kind of backfired with the weather, and now everybody's hollering for it to be back on Saturday night, which I expect it to be next year.
It's already been announced, yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. So it was a noble experiment. It didn't quite work out, but I don't think that's going to affect their viewership or their ratings from here on out. It's just one of those things that every NASCAR fan, takes into account. I mean, they're not idiots. They know that it might rain in Central Florida in July. Yeah. I mean, nobody's upset about. I mean, I guess they're a little annoyed that it happened, but nobody's blaming anybody.
Yeah.
So it's it's one of those things you try it and you learn and you move on. No harm, no foul.
Very well said.
Yeah, just my I'm not going to say much. I was not a fan of it being on Sunday night from the get-go. I think NASCAR, I know NBC had their little fireworks, blah-de-blah, whatever, scheduled on TV. But I think you got to stick to your guns, stay Saturday night, even if you have to put it on NBC Sports Network, because they've played races on Fox Sports 1. I know this was their re-debut, but I want to say, I'm not going to go as far as Larry McIndoe Jr. and say it needs to be a day race, but I still Saturday night.
Colton Jacobs going up against the grain for the first time.
Yeah, well, let me point out that like Colton rarely leaves his house anyway, so he wasn't going to see fireworks.
Yeah, I did not go see fireworks.
Colton's definitely speaking in the minority right now. Like most social people go out and watch fireworks.
Hey,
and so like Colton would have been very happy if that happened on Saturday night and had one viewer, and that was him.
yeah.
I mean, I will say it's hard to look at Colton in our makeshift studio. He does look like a caveman.
Yeah, it is like a small little cave here. But I'm sticking my guns. The minority has to be represented.
Hey,
okay,
there you go.
We'll move on to our white flag question. Thoughts on the new crew? Rick Allen, Jeff Burton, Steve Letarte. Tom?
I think they did a great job taking the green flag.
Yeah.
That's. I will say that although Rick Allen, Jeff Burton, and Steve Letarte are not as they don't have the experience in that like a Mike Joy or a Ken Squire or here at the Tom Clark Weekly Speed Report, our ability to flow and to not stutter so much. But I do appreciate Rick Allen's excitement. As we heard in our intro, it was so great, the reverb effect, and it made it sound very dramatic on TV. So I'm glad he's on there, and he's going to take the checkered flag.
Corey, what do you think of our new trio in the booth?
Oh, my gosh. It was like a warm blanket. I tell you what. I don't know. Like, it was so refreshing to hear. And honestly, I think the best one up in the booth was Jeff Burton. I really
he was
loved.
great.
You can't say that.
Shut up, Larry. Jeff Burton really impressed me. Steve Letarte has a very good perspective, just coming fresh off the pit box. And Rick Allen does his job and just calls the race.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to listen to these guys more. I really enjoyed it. Like, not only do I think that they did a good job, I mean, I rather enjoy listening to them call a race.
I will say that I think to really spice things up, they need to have Jeff Burton and Kyle Petty in the booth. You talk about two opinions.
Well, he's in their Hollywood hotel or whatever the hell it is. You got Petty with Chris Devoda and Dale Jarrett. So I do like Dale Jarrett, but I mean, I'll give my credit. I liked them. I enjoyed it. It was refreshing. Rick Allen makes me think I'm just watching a truck race, though. That's what I'm feeling like. Jeff Burton, I did text Corey a weekly weird when he was trying to say Trevor Bain, he said Tever Brain, and and he just kept going with it. He was just like, he's like, and Tever Bain in the 6, and he didn't go correct himself or stutter like Larry Mack. And Steve Letarte, he's got some work, but all in all, I really enjoyed him. And then in our checkered flag question, we're going to go back to the winner and Dale Jr. I know we talked about earlier in the year him winning at Talladega, what that meant for his chase chances, and we touched on it here in our championship picks. How much does this win solidify him as a contender for the championship?
Number one, it's guaranteed that he's going to be in the chase.
Yep,
he pretty much knows that. There's pretty much nothing that will keep him from being in the chase. Number two, he shares the same shop with the 48 crew. Still all Hendrick Motorsports, but they've got two little different shops. And so I think that's where a lot of the strength comes. And to me, Dale Jr. sounds like Larry Mack or DW pointed out earlier there. He sounds so much more comfortable with himself, being himself, than I've ever heard him or felt that he has been in his life. And I think that just is going to add to his already great season. I mean, this is 2 seasons in a row that we've had more than one win. And I think it's just he's going to be a major contender. I mean, come chase time.
Yeah. Corey, what do you think?
I think the only thing it did to increase his viability as a contender in the chase is make him a higher seed. But as far as I don't think this I don't think it really, well, to any observant NASCAR fan, I don't think it really increased his reputation as a good driver. I mean, I think everybody knows that he is a championship caliber driver. The question is, does he have championship caliber equipment with how fast Harvick is and Jimmie? Or, well, I would say Harvick, Kurt Busch, those two Stewart-Haas cars, and Jimmie, week to week, especially on the mile and a half. Now, if he can reach their speed, he's every bit of the driver they are and can definitely win the championship. This only thing this win did was make him a higher seed in the chase, which makes it easier for him to advance in the rounds, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I really don't think this was a step up or any sort of improvement from the kind of driver that he is. I think he's always been this good of a driver. It's just so happens, you see what happens when you put him in that good of a car. So
Yes.
if they can even touch Harvick's speed or Jimmie's speed on the mile and a half, then I think he's every bit the driver they are, if not better in a lot of aspects.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with everything Corey said. I think it just boosts him getting onto the contender round from the challenger round. And I think that having a multiple win season is important for him. But he's got to find a way to win races at mile and a half, win races. And he's got to match the speed, like Corey said. Top 5 is in there, but he's got to win, be able to, pass Harvick, pass Jimmie, lead more laps, because he's not leading laps. Yeah. And he'll lead like one on like green flag pit stops or something. That's about it. So he needs to get to that, but like I think we all said, we're expecting him to be at Homestead running for a championship.
Absolutely. And Corey Carroll, we thank you for phoning in to the Tom Clark Weekly Speed Report. You've just opened up a channel for us to allow call-ins and hopefully hear from some of our favorite NASCAR drivers. So a big thanks from your host and your other co-host for being available.
No problem. Happy to do it.
Thank you, Corey, and we're going to go ahead and sign out. Remember, this is the Tom Clark Weekly Speed Report. You can follow us on Twitter at TCW Speed Report. Email your questions to tcwspeedreport@gmail.com. Check out the Tom Clark Weekly Speed Report Facebook page. A quick shout out to our official partners, Rao Brothers Painting and the City Farm Project. And remember, our co-host Corey Carroll's new novel, Simon Seas, is available on Amazon.com. All proceeds go to the Julian F. Keith Alcohol and Drug Rehabilitation Center in Black Mountain, North Carolina. This is your host, Tom Clark, signing out.